So let's kick off. A very, very warm welcome, whatever time of day it is for you. It's great to have you on board with us here for this hour on Developing Your Strengths webinar. So what we're going to be doing in the session today is really looking at it from your profile and getting something out of it for yourself. So I say that now, so if you've not got your profile to hand, this is the last minute bit of running around trying to find your profile, and Lizzie's on hand for any support. Handily renamed herself support there, Lizzie, but she is Lizzie and support in case you need any Q&A on profile locations. But get your profile to hand because we want this to be a really interactive session with you. So I say a very warm welcome. My name is Trudy Bateman. I know many of you on these names popping up in chat already, and great to have you with us. I head up Strengths Profile and the team, and really looking forward to spending some time with you looking at your profile. And again, many of you might be coaches or managers, but today's around thinking about getting most of it from yourself as well. So what does that actually look like in terms of the hour that we've got ahead for you, this jam-packed hour? So it's a fairly beginner session. So if you have done anything with us more, bear with us at times, because really want to sort of take people back to basics as well. So we're going to look at the strengths approach. What are strengths? How do we define strengths? Then we're going to be looking at taking action with strengths. It's great that you've got your profiles and you've got some reflection time on it, but of course they could just be words on a bit of paper unless you start to bring them to action. So we're going to look at being your best self with your strengths, and then we're going to look at avoiding those learned behaviours and weaknesses and any impact that they might be having on today in your role and in this difficult and challenging time that we're in. And then also we're going to look at how that looks from a career perspective and long term. And some of that might be a bit fuzzy at the moment, but let's do our best to work through what we do have available and how we can use it. And then looking at something around the future. So how do you take strengths on board? Lauren and I have been doing this a long time, and we always talk about a strengths journey. So it's great that you're here today. You've started that journey. Thank you. But embracing your strengths is all about taking it beyond today. What you've learned today. I'll get phone calls from 5 years ago and say, you ran a workshop. It really just sunk in, only maybe, a year afterwards when I was in a different opportunity. You're sowing seeds today. So I'm really excited that you've taken that first step, and thank you for being with us. And I'm going to hand over to Lauren to introduce herself and Capfinity shortly, but a sneak preview in my profile. So again, if you've come across me before, you might have experienced this. So personal responsibility is a fairly new top strength for me. So it's all about ownership for me and running a team, a family, and product. I've got to deliver on what I say I'm going to. So, I really enjoy seeing things through, and that's because of my legacy. So I'm all about big tools for the future and making things last. So you'll see some of that come out, I'm sure, in my passions, but equally, I'm really interested. You're already using chat, which is brilliant to hear about you and your strengths and some of the sharing as well. And how we'll share today, which is really important, is chat will be our chat conversations with each other. So I might ask you a question about an overplayed strength and chat away to me, to everybody, and share. We are using Q&A more for sort of more formal questions that you might have about, why have I only got 5 strengths? Where do I find my profile? How do I upgrade to expert? What does it mean around the science? So if you've got any very specific questions, use Q&A. Then we've got myself and Lauren and Lizzie all to answer those. But chats are more informal conversation with each other. So that's how we'll use those chat functions today. So Lauren, tell us a bit about yourself.
So hi to everybody on the call. I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to be here with you today. So a bit about me. So my #1 strength is prevention, as you can see on the screen. And I suppose just to bring that to life, what that really means. And I've been on a journey discovering what prevention means for me. And at the moment, it's very much about thinking, what next? How can I anticipate? If I'm making a trip to the shops, I make sure everything's in place. More widely, we're in May. I'm already thinking about Christmas in December. And the steps and things and plans in place for that. In terms of my mission, I like to have purpose in everything that I do. And I think that ties in quite nicely with my time optimizer. So, not only is it purposeful, but I maximize every minute within the day. So that's a bit about me. Thanks, Trudy. So in terms of Capfinity, you know, who are we? So Strengths Profile is a product of Capfinity, and we have been around for some time now. We were founded back in 2005. Some of you may know us as the Centre of Applied Positive Psychology. We operate globally. We are based in the UK, Ireland, Australia, and the US. So our global presence is very much, you know, you can find a hub near you. We are a team of psychologists, assessors, coaches, engineers, data scientists, you name it. We're all under the Capfinity roof. And essentially we're a consultancy, and we specialize in assessment, so assessments for recruitment and for development, using the strengths-based methodology.
Brilliant, thank you, Lauren. So we're going to move into introducing strengths, and to do that, we're going to do an exercise, and I need your listener strength to hand, and your maybe emotional awareness strength to hand as well. So what I'm going to ask Lauren to do, if she wouldn't mind, is to demonstrate for us something that drains you, Lauren, just 30 seconds or so. But tell the audience something that you don't particularly enjoy. And then the audience, what I'm going to ask you to do is in chat, no, sorry, I'm not going to ask you to do it in chat. I'm going to use Mentimeter shortly. We're going to show off with technology. It's just to hold on, maybe make a note, mental note if you like, of what you're noticing in Lauren as she's talking about something that drains her. So when you're ready, Lauren, offload to the group.
Gosh, where do I start? I mean, I find technical updates are everywhere at the moment. If I turn on my phone, my work phone, my personal phone, my laptop, my TV, I've always got an update. And I'm like, it's just all, and it doesn't allow my time optimizer to be used, because I find it really, you know, I'm just watching the circle go round and round whilst things are updating. So yeah, I just, updates seem to be everywhere.
Okay. Thank you. It looks like you were a little flummoxed there at the end and ran out of things to say, so we'll put you out of your misery. And I'm going to ask you to share something that you love to do. And my audience, I would love you now again just to hold on just for a moment to something that was different about that conversation. Just make a note, mental note, and then we're going to come together and just share our reflections on the screen. So when you're ready, Lauren, what do you love to do?
So at the moment, I am loving finding ideas on Pinterest, creating boards, and just searching and keep clicking and, you know, discovering new brands, new websites, new products, new ideas. There's so many ideas and things I never even had thought of before. So I really appreciate Pinterest because it's visual. So it gives me, you know, something to look at, and it just, you know, before I know it, 2-3 hours have passed and I've been on one board and I've just been, you know, looking at peonies for an hour or so. So I absolutely love Pinterest at the moment and the various different boards I've had. I wish I could share it with you all, but yeah, I'm loving Pinterest at the moment.
Brilliant, thank you very much indeed. So I think that might be another day by the sounds of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is just share my screen with you, and I'm going to move on to Mentimeter. So share my screen. Okay. You can give me a thumbs up, Lauren, that you can all see that. Brilliant. So I'm going to ask you, what did you notice? And if you can go to your a phone that you may have nearby, or even the laptop that you're on now, and go to menti.com, use the code that you can see, 529460, and you'll be allowed to pop in 2 things that you spotted. As I say, so and when you press send or submit on your application now, Menti.com, it's going to come direct through to the screen here. So just a couple of things that you notice, the differences in those 2 conversations. If you can share them with us, it will start to appear on the screen. Energy, fantastic. Difference in tone. So immediately Lauren is already smiling because it's great. How does it feel like, Lauren, watching all of this feedback about a 30-second conversation that you just had?
It's awesome that you guys you've noticed how I actually felt, and have quite accurately depicted actually. particularly, you know, the pace, you know, bright eyes. I felt brighter talking about Pinterest versus tech updates. So yeah, thank you for helping me put it into words, guys.
And Lauren, it's fair to say you're probably someone who's a little bit more introverted. So actually just a 30-second call on Zoom, you know, some amazing comments and reflections already. So thank you so much for you know, eyes wider. I mean, they're brilliant. Happiness, tempo, volume. You know, so there's many things here in terms of the things that you notice. So thank you for absolutely using that listener strength. I'm just going to share back to the PowerPoint. There we go. So Lauren, what are some of the other things that I mean that we notice when we're strength spotting?
So we know, you know, in terms of, you know, what do you notice when we are strength spotting? It's the language, it's the rich examples. So for example, you know, when I was talking about Pinterest, I could have gone on and on and on, but we're short for time today. You know, I felt like more of myself when I was talking about those examples. And these are the kind of things that we notice in strength spotting. This is something you can do, you know, with those in your immediate environment. It's something you can do with colleagues over Zoom or whatever tech you're using. It's something you can observe in your family whilst watching Netflix. Strength spotting is something that we can do all of the time, and it's totally available to us. You know, notice the difference in someone's energy, their tone of voice, even just volunteering for things, you know, things that are, you know, always on our to-do list versus things that we don't even need. You know, we haven't finished our sentence and someone's always said, yeah, I'd love to do that. So noticing, you know, the energy and tone of voice and of not just yourself but those around you is a great way to start identifying strengths and really developing them further.
Brilliant, thank you, Lauren. And I think, you know, again, many of you, it already sounds like I've got families, as you've shared your reflections. It's a really important tool, very simple tool to use with your kids. As in their schooling, it might be something that they're not used to. You know, oh gosh, you know, you look brilliant. You know, you look really energized today. It's rare teachers use kind of language like that, but you know, picking up on when they're sort of feeling drained, overwhelmed, or down, and then starting to think about actually what are, you know, on the opposite side of that, you know, what are the great things that you spot and why, and what's the impact that it has. When somebody tells you the impact of one of your strengths, you just sit up straighter, taller, you smile, and you just so thank you.
Great, and I suppose this is just really a summary of the science behind strengths that we've gathered over the years, and we know from those who use their strengths, they're more happier, they're more confident. You know, your engagement and productivity in whatever it is that you're doing, be it at work, home, with family, it's just more. And why would we not want that? So, you know, we're more likely to achieve what it is we set out to do through our goals. And we also feel less stressed, and our resilience is also increased when we are using our areas of strength. And in terms of our career and the career decisions that we make, sometimes it can feel a little, we just can't see that next step. But we make more confident career decisions when we know what our strengths are, what energizes us, and what we're good at. So I think we'll go on more throughout today's webinar about the importance of energy, but definitely those who use their strengths are just more happier, more confident, and I suppose the benefits, we could go on, but there are many benefits for using strengths. So we've done the strength spotting, the more practical side of things. So we're going to go into the theory now in terms of what is a strength. And there are 3 core elements that we measure strengths for at Strengths Profile. And as you can see on the screen here, they are performance, energy, and use. So by performance, we mean, you know, how well do you perform these strengths when you're using them? You know, in terms of energy, how do you feel when you were using these strengths? And use, you know, how often do you actually get to use these strengths? So we have a quick question here. So in the chat function, I would just like you to have a guess. So towards the back of your profile, oh no, we have a poll here. So we have 5 options on the screen. I'd just like everybody to have a guess at what they think the world's most common strength is today. So I'll just give you a few more seconds, maybe 10 more seconds to get a few more answers in. But yeah, have a guess of what you think the world's most common strength is today.
think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So that's 70%, another couple of seconds. We shall reveal the results, okay?
Okay, so most of you think that humour is the world's most common strength. And I'm pleased to say, actually, the world's most common strength today is actually humility. So by looking at the results here, that might be a surprise to some of you. But yes, at the moment, humility is the world's globally the world's #1 top realised strength.
Which I think in the times that we're in is a really important reflection in terms of we're all here and supporting each other, and you know, we celebrate each other. So a nice takeaway from today.
Absolutely. So on the screen now, we have the strengths profile model of development. Hopefully you can see that the poll has disappeared for you, and you can now see the strengths profile model. So we're going to just take a quick whistle stop tour through the model and what this means. So at this point, if you can have your profile to hand, because this is where you can really take a look and start, you know, understanding what all of these strengths mean for you on the screen. So we start with the top left box with our realised strengths. So these are the strengths that we perform well in, we find energizing, and the use is higher. So we want to use these strengths wisely. So take a look at all these strengths, and when we go on in today's webinar, we will be asking some more questions around those strengths that appear there for you. We then go down to our learned behaviours. So these are things that you've learned to do, but you may not enjoy. So we perform well at these strengths, but for whatever reason, we find them de-energizing at the moment. And the use around them does vary. So we do want to use them when needed. We then go across to our weaknesses. So these are the things that we find hard and we don't particularly enjoy. So we self-report as performing poorly in them. We find them de-energizing. And the use can vary around these weaknesses. But in an ideal world, we'd like to use our weaknesses less. And then lastly, we have the unrealised strengths. So these are the strengths that we don't use as often. However, we perform well in them, we're energized by them, but the use is slightly lower. So we'd like to use them more. So have a look at all of the strengths and where they've fallen for you in one of the 4 quadrants. And we will be moving on now on how to take action using those strengths.
Thank you, Lauren, brilliant. And this is where we sort of start to get a little busier on chat and need your contributions. Otherwise, Lauren and I will be boring you with all our strength stories over the next half an hour or so. So it'd be great to hear from yourselves. So what we're going to do is just work through that model in a little bit more detail with you. It's, as I say, it's the absolute, it's really important to think about, you know, your quadrant, your strengths, and taking action around that. So realised strengths then, that the things that we perform well, we are energised in, and we use them a lot. So think about that. I love doing it. I do it really well, and I do it all the time. So it's about using the right strength at the right time to be your best self. Because if over the years a certain strength has got you to where you are today, so it's been very successful, it's very tempting, isn't it, to keep using that strength and what that could look like. But you know, today's around seeing the wealth of strengths that you've got in your bank, in your resource, in your toolkit, and really understanding their story. So we do a lot of work with students and thinking about CVs and application using strengths, but actually as an adult, as a coach, as a teacher, as a parent, as a manager, you know, what's got you to where you are today, and what's that sort of success story? Why is it even important to you? Where did moral compass even come from in the first place? You know, what was it that triggered that? So it's really important to think about, you know, the stories that have come from your strengths. So we're going to have a quick look at yours in a minute, and then of course that's that reflection now, and then what we want to be thinking about is the future. So, you know, in terms of what you would like from your future, you know, really starting to think about aligning your strengths, being a bit more conscious to your career or your life or your relationships, and thinking about, well, this is the scenario, situation, the ideal, the vision, the goal, the dream, the drive. What's going to get me there with the best results? So really being a bit more conscious about, okay, so yes, I could do this one, but this one's going to help me a bit more. And this one's going to have better results. This one involves other people. And this one's going to be something that, will really see more of a success. So looking at that entirety, humility, Lauren was mentioning that top realised strength. I do an awful lot of team development. When I have a whole team that uses humility and they overplay humility, they don't celebrate their own successes. They're too busy celebrating each other, and nobody's celebrating the team and putting the team in front of really important stakeholders. So, we're going to look at those strengths now. And what I want to ask you in chat, if I may, is, what are you known for? Which are you known for? So chat with us. As I can see a couple of questions coming up in chat, which is absolutely fine. But if you can potentially try and stick to Q&A where you can, it means I won't miss them, because we have 50 people putting something in the chat now. So yes, we're going to go through, Eileen, we're going to go through each quadrant. So we'll absolutely capture each quadrant. So I would love to talk about which are you known for. Organisation, Maisie, completely and totally me. Yeah, another organiser. So, I wonder if there's enough to organise right now, and what that looks like for you in these COVID times. You've got rapport builder, judgment, relationship deepen and bounce back ability. Yeah, that's definitely going to be something that you're going to be using quite a bit of over the next few months, no doubt. So you can see the array of strengths that people are known for. When I talk about what do you want to be known for, so I work with managers and leaders and students, it's a really important question. Of every attribute that you have, every resource, every skill, if you think about, but actually what defines you? What is it that's just, if they took it away from you, you'd feel like you'd lost an arm or something, really thinking about what that looks like for you today, and then how it serves others, and then, but most importantly, today's about the future as well. What could that look like in the future? So Michael's got detail and humour, a great combination. What do they look like? What does that future look like? How does it serve people? I don't know about you, Michael, but humour is absolutely my defence mechanism. Certainly when I'm overplaying right now and getting through these times. Sean's got pride. That's brilliant. It serves you well. It's what you want to be known for. But thinking about, some of us are going to be carving out our future, maybe with something a little bit different now. We've all had to reset. And what does that look like? What you've got in your toolkit, but what is it that you really think that you could be really carving out something quite different for? And you can see the amazing array of strengths that are coming here. So Shonda wants to be, is being of service to others. The only thing I would say there is watch out for yourself as well, Shonda. Look after yourself. Self-compassion, bit of a buzzword we're hearing at the moment when everybody's, of course, is serving other people. So these are the things that your career and your life, your relationships need to be crafted around, because this is the bit that's going to make you successful. So we work through each of the quadrants, but it's really important that your strengths are going to bring you the success. All of the other quadrants are going to support and help potentially, with that exception of weaknesses, but this is where you're going to yield the success. Now, in an ideal world, you'd be working from your strengths about 70% of the time. So if you've got that as a bit of a goal, you can start to think about really dialing some of these up. Thank you so much. They're still coming in terms of, there's quite a lot of humour on here, so I can see why you were thinking about that as one of the top ones. Marilyn's interested in coaching. So, really investing that time right now in yourself, which is fantastic, because, I wonder whether we'll ever get time quite like this again. So thank you for that on the realised strengths. Now I want to talk about learned behaviours, because I've been in this business for 10 years and as I do, so just take stock. Remember these words, if nothing else. This category you do well at, but you don't enjoy. So this is not something that you want to be carving a career out in. And you probably find that you're already carving a career in this space, because it's very natural. You're good at this. But if you want to avoid burnout, you only use it when needed. So don't get me wrong, it's a really positive quadrant. You're good at it. It's a great resource. You do it well. But for the sake of your well-being and your resilience, use it when needed and try not to keep going in that space. Maybe it's time to, we're all having reflection time. What does that look like for you if you're even focused in this space? So explore your context. Why might it be draining? How often are you doing it? and consider the impact. Now, it might be that just one of those learned behaviours really leaps out at you and sort of says, yeah, one I need to watch maybe, and the others you're using in the right amount of way, so therefore it's not causing too much of an impact. But be honest, if you're starting to get drained by something in there, it's time to switch that off a bit. We talk about a strength sandwich. So my daughter came to me today and she said, Mummy, I'm so overwhelmed with all the homework on the class app that sets it. And I said, well, how are you approaching it? And she said, well, you know, try to get it all done by 1 o'clock, because otherwise, you know, so I can have the afternoon off. How many bits have you got? I've got 7 pieces to get done by then. So we talked about, it's sort of how do a bit and then break it up with something you enjoy. She's very creative. So do a bit and then something you enjoy. Do a bit, something you can enjoy. So, try not to sort of think about expenses for a day or writing a CV for a day. Break it up and make sure that you've got things that you enjoy in between. And try to think about complementary partners as well. So if somebody else is good at that and enjoys it, then ask them for some feedback or some support in that. But overall, remember to avoid burnout in that space. I'm going to ask you to use it when needed. So what I need from you now is what drains you the most. So if you look at your learned behaviours, and maybe you don't have any, don't worry if you don't, but I'm sure with you all on the call, 128 of you, there will be some that find their learned behaviours draining. So, and if you're happy to share or can share with us why it's a draining learned behaviour. So use the chat function. I'm not going to get too savvy on the tech side at the minute. Just use chat and share with us why something might be draining, and which one drains you the most. So thank you. Detailed, Gemma, is one of the top learned behaviours. Equally, Rachel, work ethic is the most common learned behaviour. And I think that makes sense. Andy says he's already done, overplayed maybe work ethic in the past. Michael's got work ethic as well. So if you think about work ethic, it's saying you're really good at work, but it's not always energising, because you have other things to do in terms of you have maybe a family life, but you need to have, as Dana's just pointed, a shut-off period. And what I'm expecting from the research and data from Strengths is that work ethic is even more of a problem in these COVID times, because we all don't know when to switch off right now as we're working from home. We might have done a 9 to 5:30, now we're doing it 8 till 6, 7:30, and we're always on call. So it's really important to watch the work ethic. Kathy, it's really important you're not lazy, because remember the learned behaviours, you are good at it, and you perform well at it. So you do work and you do it really well, but sometimes there's life outside work, and maybe we'll even see a shift the other direction by saying it's maybe we'll get some reflection time that actually other things are more important, and we'll slightly have different values. Persuasion, there's Katie, if I have to convince you, then you clearly don't understand. A little bit of impatience there, but why? So it's a really important area, and I know I've talked about it quite a bit, but my experience in the 10 years is it makes sense, but it's really important. You've now started to think about the things that you're good at, but be really cautious around it. So David's got rapport building, it's hard for you. That's quite a common one too, David. And I think for us, it's around, what other strengths might you have to support you in that space? So, what's curiosity look like for you instead? So thank you for sharing that. As I say, it's really important that we look at things that can support us around those learned behaviours. So I'm going to pop into weaknesses now. We won't dwell too much here, but let's be honest, we've all got them. So let's address them. And this space is about accepting them, because we're not great here. We don't enjoy it. And so why would we want to focus in this space? Now, many of you may, be old school and be thinking, well, but we have to fix our weaknesses. So we do a lot of strengths-based recruitment work, and we recruit on the basis of strengths. That's what we're looking for, and we're looking to people to accept and use their strengths to compensate in areas that they are weaker. So be honest with yourself. Is it career or life critical? So quite a common one I'm often coming across as a coach, as narrator. Do you need to tell stories? Is it important? Does your life, relationship, career depend on it? So, get a bit honest about, do you know what? I don't need to tell jokes. I don't need to tell stories. Do I really need to be that organised? be honest about it, and then think about, if you do, then use your strengths to compensate. There was a good example there about rapport builder, and being something that drained, and if rapport builder was a weakness, a great example might be that you're going into a conversation, connecting on different values. So you don't need to connect on weather and activities, but it could be on what you're both here to achieve. You could be using a curiosity to really ask the right questions in the right context for people. You could be using your humour to make people feel at ease. You could be using relationship deepener to connect on a deeper level. So lots of different ways in which you could be using your strengths to compensate. So it's really important. It might not be a perfect combination or a perfect match, but what's going to really support you to kind of just make that a little bit easier. And most importantly, ask for help and be honest around it. So, as a manager myself, I'd much rather deal with the impact of that and work through it, rather than, somebody struggle, try and adjust it and still actually not achieve the results. So I'm going to a slightly more challenging one for you this time, is what strengths could compensate for one of your weaknesses. So just as I'm asking you that, one of the great examples, so one of the most common weaknesses is competitive. And if that's, you and that comes up for you, there's something like service, which is a common strength, would be a great one to think about, because it's what you're doing here is, helping, providing a brilliant service instead of being competitive, because they're going to buy from you or do what you need them to do, or you're going to win that piece of work based on the fact that you've given a great service or you've built a great relationship. So think about, thank you David, a great example there. So David's given me a weakness, and I'm just wondering what strength though could really support you. If failing hurts, David, what strength could help you in that scenario? Yes, planner and incubator being a great one to support time optimizer. So you're seeing that it's not service and strength compassion yet. So the weakness is service. So yeah, going above and beyond, absolutely. So I guess that might just be about where you are context-wise in terms of being tired and always providing a service to others or opportunity. So it doesn't really matter what your context is. The fact that you actually deeply care about people is something that can, maybe you don't need to serve them, maybe you can care and pass it on to somebody else. Time optimizer and drive is a brilliant example. So you might have something that the driving you is a real strength, but make sure with drive as a strength you know what you're achieving, and actually absolutely time optimizer for something just to make sure that you're using your time wisely there. So with time optimizer and drive, make sure you know what the goals are and your mission there. Vivian saying, I'm not sure what can compensate for emotional awareness. So listener, maybe something like that, Vivian. Reading the room. So what would help you read the room? Be curious, ask questions, use humour. Emotional awareness is about trying to read the room to get to the results that you want. Have you got personalisation, maybe, listener? So it's what is it I want to do with my emotional awareness, and then what other strength could help me? How can equality, thank you Diana, help competitive? So competitive, again, ask yourself the question, only address this if it's having an impact. What do you want to achieve with competitive, Diana? And once you know that, it's clearer to ask what kind of strength might be able to help you. So if equality then fitted your context, so if it's getting a job, winning a piece of work, winning a quiz night, being good at sport, what is that competitive? And then think about the strength that can really support you there. So what we're demonstrating here is that we've all got an abundance of stuff that we love doing and that we're great at, and that if we just start to tip that balance and be honest, then we can really start to think about addressing some of these weaknesses from a strengths perspective. Now, this is not about developing weaknesses. We don't want you to develop weaknesses. What we want you to be doing is focusing on your strengths and overcoming weaknesses with your strengths. Because for most of us, let's be honest, spotlight's a weakness, presentations, something that you dread. Then you stick yourself on the stage and just keep doing it and develop it and develop it. It's not going to work. But actually, thinking about strengths to support you to overcome it, to maybe avoid it, to get help, to ask, to avoid those scenarios, using them less is going to be much easier for you. in terms of certainly basing careers around that space. So hopefully that gives you some insight into weaknesses, and now you're going to kind of put a big pen through those, know what you need to do, and focus on the unrealised strengths, so the stuff that you're really good at and you're energised, but the use is lower here. So here's a real opportunity and potential for you to be releasing your good self, your best self, and your future going forward. And again, I can't think of a better time right now in terms of resetting. What is it I'm doing? What is it that's really important in life? Where are my values? How do I show up? Am I proud of the way that I show up? Am I a good team member? What do those things look like for me? And actually your realised strengths and things that you're sitting on that are your potential. So you've probably got 7. If you've got less than 7, it just means your data's gone elsewhere. So of the 7 that you've got in your unrealised strengths, just get your reaction to them. Now, I've had organiser as one of my unrealised strengths for probably about 4 or 5 years. It doesn't seem to come out from that box into my realised strengths, which is the ideal. So from that perspective, it's probably because I'm not emotionally excited or motivated by organiser, but there are other things in there that excite me more. So, have a look at your 7 or however many you've got, and think which ones do you think there is a real opportunity to develop, which ones you're excited about, which ones motivate you, and really think about when you're setting goals for yourself, no matter how big or small, which are the ones that are going to maybe just tap into these a little bit more. Whether you're baking bread, whether you need to be a little bit more adventurous with big garlic bread, or where you get your flour from, or the type of what you're doing, just tapping into a little bit more of that creativity or whatever it is into your daily role, and getting some feedback on it, growing confidence. So a real set of amazing potential for you, and we'll come on to that in terms of your future career as we finish the session as well. So my final chat to you all, and again, the chats are really helpful for me to be answering the questions and giving you a little bit more insight. So which are you most excited about? So thinking about your list that you've got there, which are you most excited about? So somebody's straight off the mark here. Optimism, creativity, explainer, innovation, optimism. Yeah, optimism is a fantastic one for right now, isn't it? Of course. So immediately you can see how you just went, yeah, this one is the ones I'm most excited about. So pay attention to that emotion that you've got and motivation around it in terms of your goals going forward, whether that be career goals, relationship goals. I don't know, of course relationships are more challenging right now, but they're either virtual or you're on top of each other, and the sorts of things that you need to be maybe recognizing in each other. Oh, that's fantastic. You're most excited about all of your unrealised strengths, right? What an amazing combination. Gosh, change, resolve, creativity, some really dynamic ones there. Thank you very much. Resolver and counterpoint. Counterpoint's a great one. A little bit biased there. I love using counterpoint myself. Creativity and innovation, and so adventure there by Emily. So what you're saying is you've got a reaction to some of them. So these are the ones that I tell people about them now, because remember, they're unrealised. That means you're not using them, which means you're not demonstrating these. So in life, in people that you work with, in family members, they won't know unless you share it with them, and maybe share some ideas on how you can get more involved. I guess maybe there's never been a better time to get involved in things that you've never done before, whether that's something volunteering or charity or career-wise. So I'm going to pass over to Lauren. I'm sure you've heard enough about me and my stories just for a moment, and then we're going to start to look at how to interpret that career guide.
Awesome, thanks Trudy. So if we all could turn now towards the back of our profiles, not quite all the way to the back, but about 3 pages before then, you'll see your career guide. So hopefully some of you will have smiled when you saw your the job sectors that have been suggested to you here. So I'm just going to go through what the career guide means, and some of you it could be relevant to where you're at now in terms of considering the next step, or maybe those around you who are. So the career suggestions, so we'll start with the top 6 that you have in the dark green kind of box there. These are career suggestions based on your realised strengths. So the things you perform well in, you're energised by, and the use is high. So these are just job sector suggestions for you. They're not in any particular ranking order. and they're just purely in alphabetical order. So have a think about, when you review these career suggestions, have a look at these, really read the descriptions, and perhaps rate according to your preference. Maybe it's only one or two that really stand out for you and think, I'd like to do that. Or some of these suggestions could have even been things you've done in the past previously. So, you can also combine some of these job sector suggestions. Things like, you could have an IT role within marketing. You could do training and development within government. You could have, even sports and recreation, within a myriad of organizations. So have a think about, what is it about each of these job sector suggestions that actually excites you? And perhaps maybe set yourself some goals around these job sectors. So you might think, what am I going to do in the next 6 months, 2 years, another 2 jobs time. So, and can have a look back at your strengths. So while some of these career suggestions may appear on multiple profiles, the uniqueness that you'll bring to each of these industries can be found in the realised strengths at the front of your profile. So whilst you may have accounting, okay, we'll look at the realised strengths that will help you to really succeed and flourish in that particular area, if that is what you would want to go into. So really have a think about, which of these excite you and what is the uniqueness that you bring through your profile to each of these current job sectors. And then just lastly, on the potential career suggestions. Now, these are based on your unrealised strengths. So again, take a look at your profile and see those strengths there, and have a think about which are the ones you would love to dial up some more. And these potential career suggestions could be that, I've always wanted to try something, but I don't know what, or I want to do something else in my career, but I'm just not quite, I don't know where to dip my toe. This can be a great starting point for you to explore potential new roles. And what I would also say is maybe if you don't want it as a full-time role, you could perhaps volunteer in these areas of potential career suggestions. They are there to support you. And if you are wondering, I'd love to do something else, but I don't know what yet, have a look at the potential career suggestions. And I would definitely say they are strengths that you're not currently using that much today, but you could be using a lot more in the future if you perhaps sort out, through volunteering or actual full-time roles, things to help you build, and gain some more experience in those particular job sectors. And so that's a bit about the career profile and really maximising your strengths there. Would you like to add anything, Trudy?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to pick up on some of the chat function, if I may. So I think Rami's come up with a great point. He says, I'm doing all of these roles. And I think, yes, it's a great reflection. And I looked at that when I saw my own and I think there are many hats to many roles, and it's really important. Maybe a reflection for you then, Rami, if you're thinking about that, is, but which of those hats do you enjoy the most? Which is the one that sparks and excites you? Is it the people management side, or the consulting side, or the coaching side, or the teaching side, or the voluntary side? It's really helpful just to kind of see where your energy is, and actually reflect on when you're helping other people maybe in their careers, that it might be that something that suits them combines some of those sectors, as we've mentioned here. So I think that Kim's asked a question, best age for a child to take the assessment. I mean, the official age is 16 in terms of getting the most from it. I can't say I've ever stuck to those rules myself, but from an official perspective, we do say 16. I think, Jen, so most of my career suggestions don't appeal to me. I mean, Jen, we do look at 43 in total, and your top 6 are the ones that match most of your strengths. So I guess, from that perspective, maybe right now they're not appealing, but they're certainly ones that would bring success, because it's really important to think about, the things that will obviously you're going to be good at. So I think it's really, there are 43. Maybe it's a case of thinking, have a look at, download the 43 and see which other ones are on there. As you can imagine, we can't reveal all 43 in an order. And maybe be honest, if some things are on there that you think I'm really going for, just maybe expand your own. Use some common sense on some of the strengths that you've got. If you're going into coaching and it doesn't say coaching on there, do you have compassion? Do you have enabler? Have you got mission in there somewhere? So, you can probably do some of that yourself. I think it's remember there are 43, we've just given you the top 6, just like your top 7 strengths. You've got more strengths than the top 7, but for this report, we only give you the top 7. So, you know, some great reflections. Karen's saying, did it with your nearly 12-year-olds and found it to be really useful. Me too, I have a 12-year-old, but I can't officially tell you to do it at 12. I have no adherence though, so, you know, it was really helpful in terms of future conversations and just giving them confidence. My goodness, I don't know about anybody else with kids on the call, but if you've got sort of tweeny kind of era kids, then, you know, they don't have any confidence. Anxiety is a huge thing. So giving people confidence that there's stuff out there that they're going to be good at, you know, it's a great conversation to have. So thank you all for sharing your stories there. And Lauren, I'm started to steal the thunder on your next slide. So on that moment, I'm going to mute and hand back over to you.
Great stuff. I think do we have a question there on the slide for those on the call, Trudy? But I just wanted to, you know, reiterate, because quite a few have had questions on this. So the career suggestions are based on your realised and your unrealised strengths that appear in your profile. So it is about the uniqueness that you bring to those sectors, you know, when you do, if you apply for things and explore potential career opportunities in that space. So I want to move on.
More questions, shall we just quickly before moving on? We've got time, so if we can address them now. So I think Divya has said, what is your view on converting weaknesses to strengths? Should it be worked on or to focus on strengths? Our view is absolutely focus on your strengths. Now, you would only think about developing a weakness if it was critical to something that you're doing, your life, your work goals, and only then would we not develop it into a strength, maybe make it a learned behaviour, something that you're good at but you probably never going to enjoy. So it's being realistic about it. You know, for most people, if you told them to take their weakness and develop it into strength, that's an awful long journey you've got to take that on. So thank you. It's a great question, and thank you for that.
There's another question here around entering into some suggestions that may be quite difficult to enter into. I think something to have a think about around there is, you know, some of the other strengths you may have, like network. So, you know, networking, connector, rapport builder. What are the things that you can look to in your other strengths, your relating strengths, to really so you might have relationship deepener. You know, do you know anybody already in those sectors who could perhaps help you, or, you know, so looking towards some of your relating strengths to network and get involved within, you know, finding out more about some of these job sectors. Okay. So thank you so much for all the things that you've dropped there into chat. So to kind of really round up how to apply your strengths, there are 3 core areas, I suppose. So firstly, it's always with ourselves. So, you know, share our profiles and really continue to use the strengths language. So if you've been using your narrator a lot today, or your explainer strength or feedback, you know, name it in that moment. If you share it with those around you, they'll be able to pick up on those strengths, you know, maybe that humor or whatever it is that people notice in you. So definitely share your profile with others, those around you, and review the tips as well, because there are some really useful nuggets of wisdom and tips on how to use that strength or what it means. And it's a great refresher. If you think, what does that strength mean again? Or how do I describe it on my application or to my spouse or to my boss? You know, review the tips in your profile, because there's some great nuggets in there. And really align your profile to what it is that you want to do in terms of your goals and objectives, because you're more likely to achieve it and also enjoy it whilst you're achieving it. So that's for ourselves. And for those of us that are part of a team, you know, keep strength spotting and feeding back with those around you. You know, it's really powerful to name the strength in the moment and what you notice in others. And, you know, through doing that and that becoming practice, people around you will also, you know, replicate that and also name the strengths that you're using to, you know, complementary partnerships. So earlier Trudy mentioned about, you know, what strengths could help with your weaknesses. So that could be complementary partnering within your own profile, but it could also be between team members. So somebody who may have a learned behavior in a particular area, you may have it as a realized strength. So, or a realized strength versus an unrealized strength. There might be a mentoring opportunity on a team there. And also appreciate the diversity of our profiles. So we don't all want to have the same strengths, and no 2 strengths profiles are the same. So really appreciate and get others to talk about their strengths and what it means for them. And in terms for those who are, maybe in more leadership roles for the wider organisation, could understand what the different makeup of the different team strengths are, both the visible, to the individual, and the team profiles. Get the right people working on the right things, and the right teams working on the right projects. And focus performance reviews. So make them strengths-based conversations to start with. So it doesn't, it's really focusing on that performance, energy, and use, not just what we're good at. So that's a quick summary of how to apply your strengths. Really, it's for yourself, for your teams, and for your people within organisations.
Thank you, Lauren, very much indeed. So as we close, just a couple more resources. There is a Strengths Profile book on Amazon, and visit our site, Be Your Best Self site, it's called. It's a free resources site within Strengths Profile. Lots of videos, worksheets and things to sort of get you going a little bit more around your own strengths and development. For anybody who's a coach, we've got an accreditation program, which we'll send details of out with the slides. So we absolutely will be sending you slides. And look forward to staying in touch over time. I'm just going to sort of give you a last few moments as well, just to sort of jot our emails down and to just make sure there are no more Q&A or chat. I think I just noticed one more question. What does your research show about how much people's, thank you Glenn, strengths change over time? So very much around, we expect strengths to change over time. They're not personality. At all. It's not fixed. I'm not a label. Because to remember, we are measuring performance, energy, and use. And if you even think back to 3 months ago, pre-COVID, what you're energized in now probably has changed. So we do expect movement, and it all depends on your context. So right now, everybody's changing, so we would expect some changes. If you've got the same relationship and same job and same house and all things are set up fairly similar and the same job, we wouldn't expect many changes at all. So it's context related in terms of your changes. Yeah, it's a really, really great question there. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for sharing that. It's been in the best webinars. Michael, I think Lauren hit the spot there with her answer for you. So again, just a really thank you for spending an hour of your time out to develop your strengths. And this time it's really important because obviously you're probably serving many other people, your teams, the people you work with, your families, your neighbours. Don't forget that self-compassion as well. It's for your own conscious career. So from Lauren and myself, we will just stay on the line for any last minute Q&A. Have a good evening, have a good night, depending on where you're coming from. USA, you've still got a few hours left of your day. A very good afternoon to you all, and thank you again for spending this time with us.